This is Sam Long.
I'm John Nugent.
And I am Ron Peters.
Welcome to the After Class Podcast.
Because the best conversations happen
After class.
Thanks for joining us. Another episode of the After Class Podcast. We're glad to have you along. Today is Wednesday when we're recording. It's our last orientation day, and all the freshmen have been put through their advisors and all the rest. And so there's a lot of students on campus now, not just the athletes who came early. And so a lot of energy and excitement on campus.
So you said, I thought you were going to say put through the ringer.
Not yet. They still have to do that.
That's a ringer of sorts.
Yes.
The faculty who have been
The
put
financial
through the
aid line.
Yeah, that is a tough. The rest of the time is like going to the handbook and all the other things to get them acclimated to college life. But it's fun seeing them. There's a lot of like wide-eyedness and like I'm not sure what I'm in for, but they'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's kind of, they've expanded orientation to be like welcome week. And so for the next 4 days, there's going to be activities. They'll be at the pool on Sunday.
Oh, nice.
At my place. So I get to meet the freshmen and show them the pool.
Dunk them,
The Nugent.
obviously.
Yeah, show them the swing set.
Welcome to Casa Nugent.
I'm amazed how, the swing set is a popular destination at your house. Because,
Absolutely.
it brings back memories and it's just fun, relaxing.
And
It's
it's
like
the
20
largest swing set in Lansing.
I was going to say, it's like 20 feet tall. It's ridiculously large.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah.
Has anyone hurt themselves trying to jump off it?
Yeah, there have been minor ankle sprains,
sure.
but no one's been hospitalized yet.
No, you
There's
haven't
really
had a
only
separate-
one regular swing now because like two of them I
Oh.
combined and I put a love swing on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And that's actually become very popular.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Is it, love is in the air, as
Love
they
is
say.
in the air.
Is
And
it
then
facing the water or facing the house?
it is facing the house.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, it would be facing the woods next
Yeah,
to the
it's-
water. So it's
okay,
not as
yeah.
scenic.
Little view shed cut in there.
Yeah. But for the single swing, you can face either direction.
Yeah, you can reverse that very easily.
And then there's a baby swing. So
oh,
for my
'cause you're a
grandson.
grandpa, yeah. You got to have
Yeah.
a baby swing.
Yeah. So there's only one regular swing there. Anyway.
Anyway, we're way off. Yeah, the swings are great. Yeah.
I think several of our listeners were actually involved in installing this thing in the backyard.
Okay.
Because these poles,
Way down.
I mean, they
Right.
go at least 6 feet underground.
Oh, my
Easy.
gosh. I had no idea.
Yeah. And
Wow.
once you get down about 3.5 feet, you hit water because it's like a drainage field in that area.
Right. Yeah, there's a lake out
That was
there.
a fun little project.
I can
but
imagine.
Massive, massive poles. And they have to be at the right angles so that they meet in the middle where they're supposed to up at the top.
To
And
be clear, not at right angles.
Right.
not
correct
90
angles.
degree
Yes.
angles.
Yeah, exactly. Where did you get it?
I ordered it online at some like commercial swing set supplier. Did you hear the story why this happened?
No. Now I got to hear this.
When we first moved into the house, our neighbors had a great like kids play structure swing set, and they said we could use it whenever we want. It's like right next to our property line. Like take a step and you're on their jungle gym area. And my girls wanted their own, and I'm like, no, we're not gonna buy and build one on our property when you have a perfectly functioning one in our neighbor's yard. Our neighbors didn't have kids. And so like, go ahead, use it. It would justify its existence. And I said, if they ever take it down, I will get
Interesting.
you a swing set. But the problem is by the time they did take it down and they remembered my promise,
of course
they were now like, big size people. Like the little baby jungle gym
Yep.
with the slide is not going to work. So I had to go big. I had to think about, all right, for like junior high and up, like into adulthood, this swing set needs to be for. That's what I got. The biggest set imaginable.
Go big or go home. You
Yeah.
definitely went big on that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, fun story. Gotta-
Still having to bury the pole 6 feet. That is a commitment.
Yeah, and there are 8 of them, eight holes. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
big
Wow.
swing set. And now I get to weed whack around it every time I have to mow.
Good
It's
times.
fun.
All right.
Well, thank you for the story of your swing set. I'm sure our listeners found it fascinating. There are people who feel like they're just, more contact with you, a little bit deeper into your life. So
Yeah,
that's what we
Like 6
that's why we
feet
do
deep.
at least.
that. At least, right.
All right. So anyway, students are back. We'll give you an update next week about all the students returning. Right now, we just got the freshmen really on campus, but when they all come back, it'll be a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, today we are finishing our Holy Humor series. As a little preview, we got a few passages to get to, and then we're going to have the our top things, top book, top
little Letterman going on there.
story, top line. Yeah, exactly. We'll be top 10. It'll be top 1 of each of us.
Yeah, one for each of us.
What we
so-
liked best, and you may feel differently, and you're welcome to put that on the Facebook what your favorite is, I suppose.
And we haven't compared notes yet, so
No, we may have the same or completely different.
I'm guessing it's going to be a
I
lot
can't
of
read your
difference.
writing. You can't read mine. It's fine.
Right.
Reading it upside down
Yeah.
is not going to work.
All right, let's get into it. The first one is from Acts 23, and this has a couple of interesting tidbits. So we'll start in verse 1. Paul was looking intently at the council. He said, "Brothers, up to this day, I've lived my life with a clear conscience before God." Then the high priest Ananias ordered those standing near to strike him on the mouth. That's not funny.
That's so funny. Oh, wait,
Yeah.
that's not the funny word.
Like,
Sorry.
it's interesting. At this, Paul said to him, "God will strike you, you whitewashed wall. Are you sitting there to judge me according to the law, and yet in the violation law you ordered me to be struck?" Then those standing there said, "Do you dare insult God's high priest?" And Paul said, "I did not realize, brothers, that he was a high priest. For it is written, you should not speak evil of the leader of your people." Now I'm going to stop there for a second.
yeah.
What is going on? Like, how does he not know it's the high priest?
Yeah, I mean, Paul was really connected with the Sanhedrin. We see that early in the book of Acts. He's like this rising, youngster, outstripping anybody in terms of their Judaism. He had to have known who the high priest was at one time. Now, I guess in the intervening years, maybe, or not intervening, but lost my word. Anyway,
That works.
yeah.
Allow it.
In between, somebody else was appointed high priest and he didn't realize it, wasn't watching the news, doesn't pay attention to Fox News or
Right.
whatever. So I could see where maybe he didn't know. Of course, some people, like if you guys, I'm sure you guys are familiar with this, the people who argue that Paul had poor eyesight, like in Galatians, you would have torn your eyes out for me. So Paul had some sort of like horrific disease that caused his eyes to, be all pussy and stuff.
Couldn't read the name badge.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't see what was going on there. So there are a lot of explanations as to why Paul didn't recognize him.
Either way, I don't know. It's kind of funny. I mean, the guy threatens to hit him, and he's like, "Oh, God's gonna punch you!" And like, "How dare you talk about that with the high priest?" Like, "Oh, I didn't know."
Like I can insult anybody else, but I'd never say that about the high priest.
Yeah.
So from all the Bible movies, they always have the high priest wearing something distinct. And we know, especially when they're serving inside the tabernacle, they had a unique wardrobe to wear. But like in everyday matters, do we have any biblical evidence to think they dressed any differently than any of the other priests?
I don't know offhand from an Old Testament perspective, and even if there was, I don't know what the New Testament was like. If they continued
Right.
those traditions, or I mean, whenever I see depictions, the high priest always has like a little blue here, something that sort of sets him apart. And I don't know offhand if that's actually biblical or just
Right.
a choice to help you as the viewer reader to sort of just make the distinction. So I don't know, but either way, he didn't know the dude or didn't
Well, I mean, he could have just shown up casually
Right, man.
wearing jeans and a
likely
"Make Jerusalem Great Again" T-shirt
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
said punch that guy in the mouth. Like,
Yeah.
In any event, he calls him a whitewashed wall, which is really funny. It's a nice slam.
yeah, that's a good one.
I haven't found a really good place to use it myself. Calling somebody a whitewash wall, but for Paul,
Now, is that different? I mean, I assume that's different than a whitewashed tomb.
I feel like the
Yeah.
insult would be similar.
it'd be similar, but
Right.
not the same.
Looking good on the outside and the inside is
yeah.
not great.
Yeah.
Whitewashed tomb's great. Like, did we go over
That
like
tomb is
23?
next level.
Matthew 23? Did we go over
I
Matthew
don't think
23?
we talked about the whitewash tomb.
Oh, man. We
no,
did. A
no.
little bit. That whole chapter is like Jesus just ripping
Oh,
on
man.
the Pharisees, calling them whitewashed tombs and all sorts of things. It's great. So, but the story's not over. So Paul
more.
says, "Oh, my bad, guys. I didn't realize who it was." And he says, "But when Paul notices some were Sadducees and others were Pharisees, he called out in the council, 'Brothers, I'm a Pharisee, son of a Pharisee. I'm on trial concerning the hope of the resurrection of the dead.' When he said this, the dissension broke out between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the assembly was divided. Why? Verse 8 tells us. The Sadducees say there is no resurrection or angel or spirit, but the Pharisees acknowledge all three. Then a great clamor arose, and certain scribes of the Pharisees group stood up and contended, 'We find nothing wrong with this man. What if a spirit or an angel has spoken to him?' When the dissension became violent, the tribune, fearing that they would tear Paul to pieces, ordered the soldiers to go down and take him by force, bring him back to the barracks." So what's funny is Paul knows exactly what he's doing.
Exactly. Oh,
Right?
yeah.
So it's classic deflection, right? They're attacking him, accusing him, and he turns the light on something else. Like, "Hey, I'm on trial because of the resurrection." And the Sadducees like, "How dare you talk about the
There's
resurrection?"
no resurrection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah. I mean, it's the classic pull the pin, toss a grenade, and walk away.
Yeah.
Because he knows that he can get these guys arguing. And that's just probably Paul. I was like, I've been here before. I know how this works. And once again, after all these years, some things never change. And he's like, yeah, I know exactly what to do.
And it makes you wonder how he realized who was who. Like he couldn't discern who the high priest was.
Bad eyes.
But
With
now
his
he's got
pussy eyes, right.
great eyesight to distinguish the Pharisees from the Sadducees. Or it's like, all right, Paul, let me introduce you to everyone. Here is Pharisee A
Right.
and Sadducee B, and once all the introductions are done, then he knows his strategy.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. It reminds me of, like, there's always, certain people, like certain things, you just mention it, it triggers them, right?
Oh, right.
And he just knew what to say and what to talk about just to give himself like, not looking at me anymore, are you?
Yeah, I could see him like just backing up against the wall, kind of crosses his arms, just watching it all fall apart in front of him as it degenerates into madness as these people are going crazy on this resurrection issue.
Right. And then it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. The Pharisees
Yeah,
are like,
right.
we're going to
Yep.
kill you,
Yep.
but you're not a Sadducee. So now we like you, but we don't like you. Oh, it's so
He believes in resurrection, so do we. Woohoo! It's one of us.
But not Jesus. We can resurrect other people, just not Jesus.
Yeah, just not Jesus.
Yeah.
No resurrection of that dude.
That is really funny because he's the one on trial, and he found a way to totally hide himself in the crowd, and they took the bait.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
the funny
Exactly.
part is they didn't see that coming, and they didn't lose focus. They didn't like say, "Well, that's a debate for another day. This is about you." No, they take the bait and start
Yeah.
arguing with each other, and that's just classic.
And I think that's a Luke thing because he does that in various points, like in chapter 7, when Stephen's brought before the Sanhedrin, he's on trial, but he defends himself in such a way as to turn the indictment against his accusers. And it's not necessarily a funny moment, but I still think Luke loves that stuff. For a person to show that kind of acumen, to be able to take their accusations and turn them back against themselves. He's just like, this is great stuff. I got to get in there as much as I can.
All right.
All right, next up.
Next swap.
Next swap. Sorry.
Last one from Acts.
Yep, last one. This is Acts chapter 26, in verse 27. Towards the end of Acts, Paul has been, the previous episode was part of it. Paul's been arrested, and everything keeps falling apart. I feel bad for the Tribune, because every time he's trying to figure out what to do, everything just degenerates. And finally, he's like, I'm going to get this guy off of me. Sends it down to Caesarea. He has to defend himself there while he's in Caesarea to the various Romans there. And so finally, he's been there for like 2 years. They're trying to figure out what to do with him. And he gets his big moment. He's got to defend himself against Herod Agrippa. Or not defend himself, but defend his gospel to Herod Agrippa. And he's like, this is it, man. Agrippa, he's not a Roman. He knows Judaism. He knows the Hebrew scriptures. And so Paul really feels like this is my moment. And so he gives his testimony. He proclaims his testimony to him and gets all the way through that. And in verse 27.
Well, start in verse 24. I think there's funny stuff before that.
Okay,
if you don't
that's
mind.
fine. No, I don't mind. So in verse 24, it says, while he was making his defense, Festus exclaimed, this is the Roman governor. Okay, he's not a Jew. He's not an Israelite. He's just Roman. Festus exclaimed, you're out of your mind, Paul. Too much learning is driving you insane. And so
I think that's funny.
that is great because I love Festus. And he's like the new guy in town. He doesn't really know all this stuff. He's like, you're just nuts. And Paul very calmly says, I'm not out of my mind, most excellent Festus, but I am speaking the sober truth. Indeed, the king knows about these things, and to him I speak freely. For I am certain that none of these things have escaped his notice, for this was not done in a corner. So he's like speaking directly to Agrippa. It's almost like he's just blown off Festus. And he's I can see him looking him right in the eye. He's got his attention. And then he says, King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know you believe. And he calls them out. And this is another one of those moments where the guy who's on trial is going after them. And you can either see him as being really calm. It's like, do you believe the prophets? Or I've got a friend who I know this is how he would do it. He'd look at him and go, you believe, right? Right. Say it. Admit it. You believe, right? He just get all up in his face or something like that. But either way, he just looks at him and says, do you believe? And Agrippa's response, do you think you can so quickly persuade me to become a Christian? Agrippa won't bite. And then he shows a little bit more cleverness than maybe the Sadducees and the Pharisees. But he won't take the bait. He's like, you think you can really persuade me that quickly? Paul says, yeah, I do actually, whether quickly or over a long time, I want you to be just like me, just not in chains. And so it's another great moment where Paul demonstrates tremendous rhetorical skills and his confidence in the moment. And it's just funny. Festus, you're insane. Agrippa, what do you think? And Agrippa won't buy it.
Yeah, I almost get it. Like sometimes when you're talking to people, like you say something like, "You believe that, right?" And like kind of like sort of
right.
prompt them. He's like, "That's what Paul does, right? You believe that, right? Right, Agrippa?" Like, nah, not so fast. I'm not ready to be convinced.
Exactly. Well, and there's a lot on the line for Agrippa. He's a politician. Everything's got to be weighed against expediency and all that. And so it's more than just I believe or don't believe. It's like, what does believing get me, or what does it cost me, and what am I not willing to give up? So there's a lot on the line for Agrippa.
Yeah, and he shows knowledge of Agrippa is someone who is genuinely straddling the worlds of the Romans and the Jews, and he's got family members who are Jews through intermarriage, which is kind of suspect and stuff like that. But they're at least trying to appeal to the Jewish people there and say, "Hey, I'm a leader who can understand you, who has respect for your traditions."
Yeah.
And so he's probably gone on the record saying positive things about Torah.
Right.
Up until this point, and
He's
now
been on CNN. They know what he says.
and now Paul is talking about Torah, appealing, because if he says he doesn't believe the prophets, then he's contradicting a lot of his showmanship, right? Up to this point of being someone who's a sympathizer with the Jews, but now he's framing the prophets as prophets who point to Jesus, and he's like, not so fast. So it's a great turn, and I think this is it's hard to know, like. You talked about how your friend might read this. There's so many different ways you could read this.
I know. I wish we had some notes.
This could be, I view this as a passage where, an evangelist shows hope that the message is coming across and is genuinely penetrating. Like, he believes that maybe his testimony up to this point, the Spirit has worked in the heart of Agrippa. And he's like, you believe, don't you? Like, I hope you believe. Like, I hope my testimony has been powerful. I believe it's possible the Spirit has convicted you, Agrippa, in this moment. What do you say?
Yeah.
And of course, he kiboshes it.
Well, this goes back to when Paul first became a believer. He's on the road to Damascus. He's struck blind, and a Christian named Ananias is visited by an angel. And he's like, "Go pray for him. You can bring his sight back." But in that time, it's like he is going to preach the gospel to people like kings. It's a preview, probably to this very moment. And so Paul's, I think, remembering that God has said, you're going to be on the big stage, sees this as one of the biggest stages he could ever be on. Yeah, it's sad that Agrippa doesn't become a believer, but that's the way
Paul
it
at least
goes.
thought it was possible.
Yeah, didn't rule out the possibility.
All right, ready to move on?
Indeed.
To the letters, and we really only have 3 passages from all the letters, and there's a lot more, but I think time eluded us. We have to read through all of them again and be reminded of all the passages.
Yeah, well, I would just say Paul uses rhetoric over and over, different things that are like little quotes, a little sarcasm here, so it's not overwhelming like a story, but there are a lot in the letters because he understands how to use rhetoric to get his point across.
Yeah. So the first one we're going to talk about is from Galatians 3, verses 1 through 5. You foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you? It was before your eyes that Jesus Christ was publicly exhibited as crucified. The only thing I want to learn from you is this: did you receive the Spirit by doing works of the law, or by believing what you heard? Are you so foolish? Having started with the Spirit, are you now ending with the flesh? Did you experience so much for nothing? If it was really for nothing, well then, does God supply you with the Spirit and work miracles among you by your doing the works of the law, or by your believing what you heard? And so you're looking at me funny. Like, what's funny here?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I think I don't know who recommended this, but I think the logic was, did you receive the Spirit by doing works of the law? The work of the law they're debating most was circumcision.
Right, yeah.
And so, when you were circumcised, did you start speaking in tongues? Right? When you were circumcised, did you start, did the Spirit come on you with power? When you were circumcised, were scales falling off people's eyes? And so I think the humor is in having them go back to the works of the law, by observing clean and unclean food laws, did you see the fireworks of the Spirit? Right. And the answer, of course, is, well, no. When I was circumcised, that didn't happen. You know, when I obeyed kosher laws, that didn't happen. When I didn't do work on Saturday, that didn't happen. But when I came to believe in Jesus, things happened.
Right.
And so it's the absurdity that when they were circumcised, the fireworks of the Spirit broke out on them. So,
There were no fireworks on your circumcision day.
yeah. But there were, on the day of
Yeah.
their baptism, on the day when the Spirit came upon them in power.
Yeah, and I mean that's just it's a central argument, certainly in the Book of Acts, but here we're seeing it in Paul's own writing as well, really reinforcing that. It's like, man, when I became a believer in Jesus, when I accepted that testimony, oh my gosh, Holy Spirit came on me, saw the fireworks. It makes me think of like sometimes, especially back in the 70s, like you see somebody like a boy kiss a girl, and then like they see fireworks, and
Yep,
so it makes me think of those kinds of a moment. But I think you're right. It's for him rhetorically. It's like when things changed, and it had nothing to do with what you call the works of law.
All right, translational question. Can we do better than bewitched? Like, seriously, that means nothing to this generation.
Yeah, I agree. It's not the best
Like-
translation choice.
Yes,
Do you know what the word is?
I've got it.
Oh.
I got it if you'd like it. I looked it up because I was so annoyed by it.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. Sorry.
It is Baskaino. Baskaino. I know, right?
Is that like
I
a
know, that doesn't
Hopex,
really help me.
Hopex legomenon?
I think
Um,
a couple times.
Yeah, it's probably a Hopex word. I'd have to look that one up. Baskaino. It doesn't even. Have,
2 times in the OT, 1 in the New Testament.
no,
there
now I
you
want
go.
to know where it was used in the Old Testament.
Okay, Deuteronomy 28:54, where it says, "The man who is most tender and refined among you will begrudge food to his brother. The wife he embraces, and to the last." I think it's that begrudge
Okay,
word. Like to. Nah, that's not right.
that doesn't sound right though. Not begrudge.
It doesn't matter.
What's the other one?
That's kind of. And then Deuteronomy 28:56. It's the same context, talking about the same sort of thing. So I don't know. I don't know. Bewitched doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean,
Well-
it's a very old word. It's
Right,
It's an archaic word that people don't use anymore. so-
Like basically, who's put a spell on you?
right,
But
exactly.
we don't use spell language. Fooled you, confused you, befuddled. I mean, I don't know. There's something more than.
But I mean,
think-
I understand why they use bewitched, because what he's saying is somebody did this to you. You're not just confused, but somebody messed with your head. And maybe that's like, if you're going to use, sort of a modern thing, who messed with your head? Who scrambled your brain on this? We have to come up with just an idiom that people would use nowadays. I don't know. It's the joy of translation.
I understand.
So you think they didn't have witches back then?
Back then they did, but now it doesn't make sense in
for
a
how it's
translation.
used today.
Yeah,
Got you.
yeah. They thought a spell could be put on, right?
Right. without
Like the
doubt.
whole show, right? Bewitched. That's the whole point of the show, right?
Yeah, bewitched. Exactly.
but no one like under the age of probably 45 has seen an episode of Bewitched.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I mean, you're raising a good point. It's
Thank
probably
you.
not the best word there,
I
but
have seen Harry Potter. Are there witches there?
Oh my gosh.
Princess Bride.
oh my gosh, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just really going back in time to everything that I've watched. back-
Wicked.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking of.
But we don't use the word bewitch.
Right.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
We like our witches, but we don't like the word bewitched.
Sure.
Fair enough.
So speaking of circumcision, which we were, the next passage also has to deal with circumcision. This is pretty funny, not gonna lie, and this translation actually gets at it.
Right. I like it.
So chapter 5 of Galatians, verse 11. My brothers and sisters, why am I still being persecuted if I'm still preaching circumcision? In that case, the offense of the cross has been removed. I wish those who unsettle you would castrate themselves. And it's like, the context is like, you're so pro-circumcision. In fact, you seem to be so pro-circumcision, you might as well just cut the whole thing off.
Yeah.
Because that's how important you've made it.
Yeah. You're so into cutting off. Let's just keep going. Don't cut off a little. Let's cut off a lot. If a little's good, a lot must be better. So
Right,
just
yeah.
keep going.
Go big or go home.
That's exactly
Like the swing set.
right, exactly. And I think that's the best line in Galatians. I wish
It's
they
pretty
just
good.
cut everything off, because it's funny, and it shows Paul's contempt. He's just so upset about it. And Galatians is great because to me it's Paul at his riled up best. I can't think of another letter where he's just almost on the verge of being out of control. that he is so worked up by everything. And so I think that line is just indicative of his mood as he was writing or dictating this letter.
So I learned it in the NIV, go the whole way and emasculate themselves, I believe is the translation I remember. Here, castrate themselves is like, that's right. That's pretty, yeah. I mean, that's the right thing. I don't know if the earlier NIV was trying to like soften it a little bit.
I don't know. Emasculate's like, to me, that's going one step further. Like that's cutting off everything. Like castrating yourself is just like cutting off the testes, but emasculating is just cutting everything off. So I would
You
think,
show advanced knowledge of this language.
yes,
Well,
totally.
Yeah.
you've had to teach this for a living.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the word, I mean, can be castrate, emasculate, or make a eunuch. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like dealer's choice of what's being cut off.
Exactly.
But I think in the context of circumcision, it's probably castrate.
I don't know.
Or probably emasculate. rather.
emasculate, I
Yes.
think is closer to it. Exactly. And
Interesting.
that's pretty much the way I teach it.
Good.
Because I think it's hilarious.
I mean, it is funny. Not the act, but the imagery of, okay.
Well, and like, you know, I wish they'd make themselves a eunuch. That's just not as funny. Even though technically it's the same thing, I don't think it sounds as funny.
Right.
All right. Last one. The last funny one here.
And a doozy.
It is. It's a long one. And really it has to do with an entire letter. So we're going to Paul's letter to Philemon. And what makes this great, there are a lot of things that make this great. And I don't even know if whoever sent this to us was thinking about this. Because it's like it says, it started in verse 8. But really, I think the funny stuff actually begins at the beginning of the letter. Because Paul says, it starts out saying, Paul, a prisoner of Christ Jesus, and Timothy, our brother. So it's, co-senders, which is very common in the ancient world. To Philemon, our dear friend and co-worker. To Apphia, our sister. To Archippus, our fellow soldier. And to the church in your home. To me, that's pretty funny. Because what Paul is going to do is he's going to advocate on behalf of Onesimus. And he's not writing a letter just to Philemon. This letter is going to be read in front of Philemon, in front of probably his wife, in front of like his chief servant or slave or whoever Archippus is, and in front of a bunch of believers in church. And what Paul is going to do is going to argue for is, okay, I realize that Onesimus is your slave, but you both are Christians and you got to think about him differently now. And it's not like Philemon can make this decision on like in the privacy of his own thoughts. Everybody's going to be watching him.
Yeah, and they all know, by the end of this letter, they all know what Paul wants.
Exactly.
And so Philemon's really put in a difficult position.
Yeah,
He's
he
lost
is.
agency.
That's the truth.
Even as the whole letter says that Paul's not forcing him to do anything, but wants to plead to him as a brother and put him in a position to make the best possible decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here to help,
I'm only here to help, but I'm
Right.
going to give you an audience as you make this decision.
Yeah. And so beginning in verse 8, when Paul says, for this reason, though I'm bold enough in Christ to command you to do your duty, I would rather appeal to you on the basis of love. And I, Paul, do this as an old man and a prisoner of Christ Jesus.
I would just say,
Old man
this-
locked up in jail.
right. This book is a primer in rhetoric and how to, like, you're saying things without saying them, but you're saying them, but not really saying them. Like Paul gets it. And like, yeah, if we read things like this at just like face value, you're missing all this sort of
yeah.
underlying goodness of it.
Yeah, and so Paul is not giving him a command, but it weighs on him like a command
Right.
because again, somebody's reading. Like Philemon's not sitting here reading this quietly to him by himself. Somebody's standing up and reading this to him. Okay, it's highly unlikely that Philemon's reading this quietly to himself. People didn't read that way. Somebody in the church, maybe the person who delivered the letter or a member of the congregation, he's like, "Oh, it's from Paul. Sweet." Read the letter.
Right.
You can see Philemon
Yes.
like, this
Yeah.
is great.
Get
We got a
everyone
letter from
together.
Paul. And all of a sudden, like he's just getting smaller and smaller and smaller as he sinks into his chair or whatever. Continuing on.
Verse 10,
Yeah, thank you.
Philemon.
I'd flip the page. It's like, first 3 words on another page. So I am appealing to you for my child, Onesimus, whose father I had become during my imprisonment. And so this is another one because Paul is basically saying, I'm like his dad. the way you treat the kid is the way you treat dad. And so he's like, whatever you do to him, I'm taking it as you're doing it to me.
I'm taking it personally.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
So that's a big deal. Here's great, because formerly he was useless to you, but now he is indeed useful. So there's kind of an interesting wordplay there in Greek, both to you and to me. I'm sending him, that is my own heart, back to you. So again, reinforcing his connection to Onesimus. I wanted to keep him with me so that he might be of service to me in your place during my imprisonment for the gospel, but I prefer to do nothing without your consent, in order that your good deed might be voluntary and not something forced. So now he's like, yeah, I wanted to keep him around because he just said he's useful, so useful that I'd rather keep him here. But it's your call. I'm not going to step on your toes. So just letting you know, I'm going to respect you, but I really wanted him here with me.
And I love that he describes Onesimus as his own heart, because when he begins the letter in verse 5, he says, I have indeed received much joy and encouragement from your love, because the hearts of the saints have been refreshed through you, my brother. So you are the one who refreshes the hearts of the saints, and here I am sending you my heart.
Yeah, good point.
Make it fresh.
I continues on, perhaps this is the reason he was separated from you for a while, so that you might have him back forever, no longer as a slave, but more than a slave, as a beloved brother, especially to me, but how much more to you, both in the flesh and in the Lord. To me, that's like the heart of it. He's like, you can't just look at him like he's your slave and I'm returning to you. This is a brother. And so your interactions have to be brother to brother, not master to slave. And so Paul is really, showing Philemon that he's got to reorient himself. He's got to recalibrate this whole relationship and interact with Onesimus brother to brother.
Yeah, and I love how he kind of frames the whole thing, because probably what happened originally is that Onesimus ran away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even stole stuff, right? And now he's
Possibly, yeah.
gone. And so, by Roman law, if you've been wronged by a slave like that, you can own him and you can punish him, maybe even subject him to death,
Yeah,
right,
that's
for
at least a
doing all of this, or
possibility,
cutting off his hand or something like that. And just Paul kind of sets this up, but maybe his running away wasn't because he was a bad slave who deserves to be punished. Maybe it was a God thing, that it was God's will that he was separated from you so he could be of service to me. And so the framing of, every direction that you probably, from a human perspective, want to go, that may be a totally faulty premise. And you should think about this as perhaps a God thing.
Yep.
And
Love
again,
that.
reading that in front of people, in front of the congregation, it's like, so are you going to do God's will, or are you going to be selfish, Philemon?
Well, and
Vindictive.
yeah, are you going to think like the world? Like you said, cut off his hand, maybe put him to death. Like all these things are possibilities for a Roman. And Paul's saying, have you been transformed by the gospel? Are you seeing all relationships now through the lens of the gospel, including this one? So I think you're right, John. This is a moment where Philemon's going to ask, all right, have I really embraced the kingdom and this relationship? Verse 17, so if you consider me your partner, welcome him as you would welcome me. If he wronged you in any way, or if he owes you anything, charge it to my account. This is why some people think maybe he stole money or something like that. I, Paul, am writing this with my own hand. I will repay it. I say nothing about your owing me, even your own self. And so it's like, I'll pay him, but remember, you owe me.
Yeah, put it on my tab. And by the way, you owe me everything.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
keep that in mind.
Yep.
Yes, brother, let me have this benefit from you in the Lord. Refresh my heart in Christ. Back to the heart thing you brought up, John. Confident in your obedience, I am writing to you, knowing that you will do even more than I say. One thing more, prepare a guest room for me, for I am hoping through your prayers to be restored to you. So, that's the best part. By the way, I'm going to show up. And you're going to have to look me in the eye and tell me exactly what happened here.
And me showing up is going to be an answer to your prayer.
Exactly.
I know you're praying for me to be able to meet you. And when I'm there, I'm going to make sure you've done what I'm politely asking you to do in this letter. Yeah, total setup.
Yeah. And I mean, it's tough because on one hand, I think that Philemon really is backed into a corner. Everything about the way Paul words this and the way it's been read to him, he does feel like he's backed in a corner. And there's a part of me that's like, oh, if I'm backed in the corner, I'm going to resist. I'm not going to do what you've asked me to do. That sort of fight or flight moment. But I think it is a test. This is an opportunity for his quality to show through. And have you embraced the kingdom? Have you been filled with the Spirit? How are you going to respond to this guy who's coming back to you as a brother in the Lord?
Yeah, and this is just a powerful book from the perspective of the gospel and
It
the
is.
transforming social impact of the gospel, and how Christ turns all the hierarchies of this world upside down. And Paul's willing to lower himself before Philemon, but he wants Philemon to raise up Onesimus because of Christ. And it's a powerful gospel book.
It
So
is.
you almost don't want to like make fun of it, or not make fun of it, but like point out all the humor in it. But it is funny. Like
Yeah.
it is funny how he turns the tables and how he sets it up. But at the same time, it's really serious gospel stuff.
In a way, I love pointing this out to students, in a way, you can almost see it as a story of the gospel. Because in a sense, Philemon is playing the part of God. And Onesimus is us, who have offended God, and God has every right to judge and do what he thinks is best. And it's almost like Paul's taking the part of Jesus to say, I know everything is right. He was wrong. He was out of line, but look at what he's become. And God is the God who forgives. God doesn't have to be backed in a corner. He's like, of course I would forgive. That's who I am. Okay, Philemon, are you willing to become a God-like character in this story and do for Onesimus what God the Father has done for all of us?
And he really, at this point, probably has no choice.
Correct.
It's either that or like, I'm not a Christian anymore. Yeah.
Positive peer pressure.
That's the last one.
All right, that's the last one on our list. We've been made aware of others at different times, and yes, there's a lot of humor in the Bible, but we didn't get all of them. We did as many as we felt appropriate.
Right.
And we didn't bring all the humor out of every story like Greg Stoffer wanted us to.
Great. Yeah.
Sorry, Greg.
He stops in my office after every episode and is like, John, you missed the funniest part of this story. And he stands in my office and recounts it. And he's right. It's hysterical. And he would have done a good job presenting it, but
Yeah.
sorry, Greg. We'll do better next time.
Yep. Get your own podcast.
Well, okay. All right. So now we turn to our favorites. We're gonna do our funniest, our favoritist.
Most favoritist?
Yeah. So we're gonna start big and get small.
It's big. Go,
Right.
go
So
big, go small.
funniest book. What do you guys got for funniest book?
I go with the Book of Acts. I think there are so many great moments in the Book of Acts that I think are very deliberate on Luke's part. Thank you, Luke. I can't wait to meet you at the resurrection, tell you how grateful I am. I would say to me, Acts is the funniest book.
All right, John.
I went a very similar route. I said Luke Acts.
Fair enough.
Because there's some of those Jesus stories in there are just amazing. And I think in volume, Luke's account of the history from Christ's birth until, Paul's missionary journeys, he tells it in such a colorful way in ways that were just not necessary.
Yeah.
And there are some Old Testament books that do this really well too. And I'm going to get to some of them and some of my other ones, but I had to go Luke Acts.
Yeah.
I went with Judges. There's just too many great stories. We talked about them. They're hilarious, and I think they're intentionally that's what they're made for, right? They're made for entertainment, I think, as well. I mean, they're obviously teaching. They're pedagogical in nature as well, but they're just they're funny. A close second for me was Kings, first and second Kings together, because they're also hilarious stories in there. And so, as an Old Testament guy, I had to go that way. But you're right, volume-wise, Luke Acts is just there's just tons of them.
Yeah.
But
And
go ahead.
what kept me, Judges was the other one I was thinking about,
Yeah.
and also looking at Kings. I mean, this is the Deuteronomistic history, right? There's a certain kind of storytelling that transcends those books. But yeah, for me, what was the game changer was, but at the same time, Judges has the most horrific, gross,
Sure.
gruesome things.
Yeah.
So I'd hate to say it's the funniest book.
Yeah, because
when
it's
you
awful.
have women being dismembered and sent
Right.
around as presents to all the tribes. Like there are some horrific things happen. So that the mere nature of the horrific text of terror in there, right?
Yeah.
Kind of pushed me towards something that Luke has some serious moments in his telling, but not these awful stories like Judges has. So
I mean, the most horrific thing in Luke is, Judas hanging himself and his guts spilling out when the rope breaks. That's not like a woman being, dismembered and other horrific things.
So because we were talking about the most funny book,
It's fair.
it's the other stuff in Judges. But if you were to the quality of the episodes in Judges compared to the depth of Luke has these quick little one-liner
Right.
like short stories, but Judges goes in deep. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
I agree. Judges has great
that was a great
moments.
choice.
All right. Funniest specific story
Yeah.
found in the texts.
I'm going to stick with the New Testament and stick with Luke because I think the Rhoda and Peter moment.
Really?
When number one, Peter being let out by the angel is a great moment. It's a good haha moment. But it's when he goes to the house and knocks on the door. He's like banging on the door, let me in. And Rhoda's like, who is it? It's like, it's Peter. And then she runs off without letting him in. I just think that that's such a funny story. And so that's kind of where I land. It's hard to pick because there's so many good ones out there. But because I teach Acts all the time, it just stands out in my mind.
Yeah, I went with Gideon from Judges,
Okay.
and mostly because we just worked our way through that whole chapter, and it's just funny after funny after funny after funny, and so the sheer volume concentrated around one character and one story, and some of the snarky ways that it's funny.
Yeah.
I found the Gideon story to be a good example. Samson could have been up there. I don't even think we talked about Samson, did we?
Yeah, we did a little bit.
Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah, you're probably gonna. I'm suspecting a Samson line may come up in our funniest line.
It is for me. Spoiler.
Spoiler
How about
alert,
you,
yeah.
Sam?
So I for some reason I just love the story of Elijah and the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, and it's not a funny, but there are funny little bits like when he's mocking them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just love it so much when he just starts mocking them because it's my personality to mock people, and so I feel a real kinship with him as he's doing that. Like, you guys are so stupid, and like just taking their logic to the extreme. But I do actually, probably my favorite is the seven sons of Sceva story, where they just get beat up and bloodied and left naked and run. I think that's hilarious. The whole thing where like, who are you talking about? You have no idea. And then he beats the crap out of him. It's just, I don't know, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, my honorable mention would have been the man born blind,
Yeah,
who's kind of
that's very
like,
good.
hey, I don't know whether there's a prophet or God or whatever. He healed me. What can you do? And just go ask him. He's an adult. There's just so much shifting of blame, and that one kind of, I may have leaned toward that one as well.
Yeah. All right, and finally, the funniest line in the Bible.
Yeah, to me, this is easy because it goes back to the pissing against the wall. I just
You
think
and
that's
that
so funny.
story.
I know that story is it. Like I said it in the episode, I read the journal article about it back in the 90s when I was a student here, and I haven't been able to shake it. I never really read it in the King James, and once I read it in the King James, it was just stuck in my head. So this is just a Ron thing. I'm not saying it's the funniest thing in the Bible, but I can't get away from it. I just think it's really funny.
Can't get away from that boyhood pea humor.
Pretty
Yeah.
much, yeah.
Okay.
The juvenile part of my humor really kind of emerged there.
So it was hard to find one that was a line.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost was tempted to do a short story, or like I was thinking of maybe the Rhoda slamming a door in Peter's face. It's not quite a line,
Yeah.
like out of someone's mouth, but it's like a sentence long. But I settled on, and this was the hardest one, Abigail, who threw her husband under the bus. Nabal, whose name means fool, and,
Oh,
and
right,
she
yeah.
says to him, as his name is, so is he,
That's pretty good.
to Dave. So she totally threw her husband under the bus, who was about to get the whole household killed.
Right, yeah.
And I didn't like the way the NRSV translated. They kind of, when it was fool, and they kind of had it that way, it's a more of a zinger line, but now they have this ill-tempered guy or something like that. It's, so the NRSV UE took all the fun out of it for me.
Yeah. So my number one all time is, if you not plow with my heifer, you would not have solved the river. It's just hilarious. I'm sorry, women, but it's funny.
That's Samson.
Yeah, and the Sam story, and it's just so great. I will say a close second to me, which is we didn't actually talk about. It's from the Proverbs, because we mentioned a lot of the Proverbs have some fun imagery. We don't have time to get them all. Was as a dog returns to his vomit, so a fool returns to his folly. I just think that's funny. I think it's great imagery, and everyone gets what he's saying. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, how dumb are you? That's a close second for me.
Yeah. A lot of good stuff in the Bible. I'm glad we were able to get through it. as we said, there were some few things that we didn't get to, but I think we hit the majority of them. So there's a lot of humor. I think people should appreciate it more. There are people who think you shouldn't laugh in church. They're wrong. If the Bible wants us
They're
to laugh,
wrong.
we should laugh.
Agreed. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us in this episode of the After Class Podcast. Oh my gosh, I cannot speak. The After Class Podcast. After class because
The best conversations happen.
After class.
Thank you again for listening to this episode of the After Class Podcast. ACP is hosted by Sam Long, John Nugent, and Ron Peters. Social media pictures and descriptions are provided by Darren Harris. Audio mixing and editing is done by Drew Nyquist. If you've enjoyed this episode of ACP, you might also enjoy GLCC's Master of Arts in Practical Theology degree. In this 36-hour program, you will receive first-rate biblical and theological instruction from John, Ron, Sam, and several of their colleagues at Great Lakes Christian College. To learn more about this program, visit glcc.edu. Get practical and go deep at GLCC.